Hello, my beautiful people. Today I am back with the video on the verbs on conjugation number 3 that we've been exploring, and we've already completed group 1, and we will complete today group 2 of this conjugation number 3. Here is a quick recap of group 1 with its endings, and today we will look at group 2. And group 2 is a little bit tricky. It's not as evident when it comes to this group because there's a lot of irregularity in this group. And I know this is a sad news, but the good news is that most of the verbs will fall into some of the other categories we've already seen, which is conjugation number 1, conjugation number 2, or the conjugation number 3, group 1. Okay, so that's the happy news. But we already know that irregular verbs take place in any language, and there's a lot of them, and Polish is not different in regards to this. So these are the endings for group 2. JEŚ, nothing for the third person singular. UMIECZ. And here is the tricky part with this verb, because that's where a lot of the irregularity may be observed. And that is that sometimes the third person singular will have the ending of dą. Sometimes it will have the ending as ją. And sometimes it will be just a plain old regular on. How do we know that? Well, we just have to learn it off by heart, I'm afraid. But I always try to break it down into as much understanding as possibly there could be for you. So let's look at some examples. The first verb that I have for you is the verb wiedzieć. Wiedzieć, which means to know something, okay? Not someone, we have a different verb for that. To know something. So to know a way to go somewhere, to know how to play guitar or anything of this kind, okay? So with any verb, this will work exactly the same as any verb. So what do? We take off the last letter of the infinitive and we are left with the stem wiedzie. But no, here we have to actually remove more of this stem, and the final stem of this verb is wie, and that's when we add the adequate verb endings. And you might be thinking, what the heck? And I am just here to tell you, yes, it's irregular in its stem, this verb, because to the Polish ear, if you would conjugate this verb and try to say wiedziałem, that it's just sound weird, and it's quite confusing because it can indicate a different verb, suggest a different verb, and it just sound weird. So we make it shorter, we make it easier to pronounce because it will be easier to pronounce the verb with the stem wie than with the stem wiedzie. And yeah, that's basically it. Remember that there is no doubling of Polish vowels, thus there will be only one e in the conjugated verb. So that's how the verb looks as when it's conjugated. So as I said, we take off the last letter of the infinitive. Here we have to take off more of the stem. So we will take off the triple Polish letter. And if you don't know this triple Polish letter, go back to my video on that topic because it's essential. And here we can see the triple letter G. That's made of DZI. And the final verb, after taking all of that, with adding the adequate verb endings, it sounds like this. Ja wiem, wiem, ty wiesz, wiesz, on, ona, ono wie, my wiemy, wy wiecie, oni, one wiedzą, wiedzą. Let's look at another verb. Here I have a verb that is called rozumieć. Rozumieć, to understand. So to understand, I don't know, anything. It really can be to understand a person, understand a book, understand whatever it is that you want to understand. We have the infinitive, and out of this infinitive, we have to take off the last letter CZI. We already know that. So we are left with the stem rozumie. And no, here we just stay with the stem. We don't do any adjustments in the stems. So it's just rozumie, and we add the adequate verb endings. And basically, just we have to remember that there is no doubling of Polish vowels. So the final verb sounds like this. Ja rozumiem, rozumiem. Ty rozumiesz, rozumiesz. On, ona, ono rozumie, rozumie. My rozumiemy, rozumiemy. Wy rozumiecie, rozumiecie. Oni, one rozumieją, rozumieją. So this is a very interesting verb because as we can see, we have the letter J, no, in the third person plural, just as we've seen before, that it's possible that the final final letters of the verb will have J and on, ją. But remember when I told you, we only take off the last letter of the infinitive, yes? Exactly. And this usually leaves us with the stem rozumie. And there is no doubling Polish vowels. But here, we are not doubling it. There is no two possibilities of having e. So just bear in mind not to accidentally remove it because, you might try to say rozumieją. Because you just got so used to not doubling the Polish vowels that you feel as if the e becomes an integral part of the endings, and it actually is part of the stem. So just bear that in mind, and remember that rule only applies if there are two vowels beside each other that are the same. So here no, so that's why the ending is ją. Eją, rozumieją. The same would be in the verb śmiać, to laugh, śmiać się. Actually, it's an infinitive verb, reflexive. We would have śmieją. But anyway, let's move to another example. And this here, that's a handy verb because you should already know exactly how to conjugate it. Umieć. Umieć, to be able to. So it basically sounds as if it was the last verb, rozumieć. It's basically part of the last verb we've seen, and we conjugated exactly the same with the same rules, and the meaning, as you can see, can change drastically if we add a prefix to the letter, to its infinitive form, and you can literally jump between meanings. So the final verb sounds like this. Ja umiem, umiem. Ty umiesz, umiesz. On, ona, ono umie. My umiemy. Wy umiecie. Oni, one umieją. And the last verb that I wanted to show you is the verb jeść. Jeść. I know, it sounds a little bit hard. Let's pronounce it slowly, the infinitive. Jeść. Jeść. But we don't exactly, in real life, accent the sh and the chi. We just say jeść. Jeść. Ść. Ść. It's very soft. It's not ść. It's ść. Jeść. And it means to eat. And the reason why I have the entire stem si, chi, is because in this verb we have a little bit of the stem change in that the actual she disappears. When we conjugate the verb, it disappears. And then we remove the last letter, but we remove also permanently that letter she, and we conjugate it as we've already known. There is no doubling of Polish vowels, so remember that. But in the third person plural, we can see that we have the letter e, because we have before it the double letter z. So the final verb sounds like this. Ja jem, ty jesz, on, ona, ono je, my jemy, wy jecie, oni, one jedzą, jedzą. And that's it, guys. That's group 2 finished. As I said, don't worry too much about it because there's a lot of irregularities in group 2 that have some sort of a pattern, but we do have some unexpected stem changes sometimes. But it's not entirely irregular in that it does have a certain pattern within it. But we finished conjugation number 3. And we will move to conjugation number 4 in the next video. And you probably suspect what conjugation is this going to treat. It will treat the irregular verbs. Make sure to check out my Sponglish Instagram channel. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and leave me a like because that helps me a lot. I really appreciate you being here and see you in the next one.